Nurse practitioners. Finding a new job is a challenge, am I right? If Doc Cafe and LinkedIn aren't cutting it, check out today's sponsor, NP Hire. NPHire.com is the only job board designed exclusively for nurse practitioners. Over 100 jobs from some of healthcare's biggest employers are hiring, from telehealth to psych, acute care, and more. Visit nphire.com/success to get started. Link in the show notes. Nursing is rewarding, important, and often all-consuming. And let's face it, it's been a rough couple years. You deserve a laugh. Enter a card game called Nurses Against Insanity, a fun, slightly scandalous take on the work and life of a nursing professional. This game has over 300 cards that we hope will make you and your nursing colleagues laugh hard enough to pee, unless you've been doing your Kegels. Who should play the game? Nursing professionals in any of the various states, such as frustrated, happy, tired, and probably overworked, anyone who's recently had to clean under a funky panis, and everyone who recently thought, I'll have to laugh about this so I don't cry. Visit www.nursesagainst.insanity.com to order the game and use promo code SuccessNP to save 20% off your order. And happy gaming. Hi, Success NP. We are joined today by Ankita Shah. She is a family nurse practitioner who specializes in oncology, and she has left her NP job as a peds oncology nurse practitioner, and she works at a nonprofit now, working with the donor registry, and she's a biotech clinical scientist. She is just so cool, and what she's involved in is super complicated, so I'm going to let her go into all of it. But she's been a nurse. She got her nurse practitioner degree from Columbia University and her BSN from the College of New Jersey. And she's going to be here on the podcast dropping what I've never heard of as a way to use your nurse practitioner degree. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So let's get started. Kind of tell us about this transition from clinical practice as a pediatric oncology nurse practitioner to now working in this kind of biotech pharma corporate job as a corporate nurse practitioner.
Yeah, oh gosh, it's such a different world. Like I'm so glad to be here because I feel like there's just so much unknown about this world of corporate America for clinicians. And I think it's continuing to grow and we're just getting started. So I think it's like very timely to start talking about this and realize that there's just so many opportunities. But yeah, I was a pediatric oncology nurse practitioner for about two and a half years. And I was at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And that's like my passion. It's my bread and butter. It's what I did as a nurse. I absolutely love those patients. But I just didn't, like in hindsight, I didn't realize how anxious I was on a daily basis. I had a lot of pre-shift anxiety. I wasn't sleeping well. I was just really burned out and didn't realize it. And basically what kind of got me out of the clinical world is I got pregnant with my first baby who's now 4, which is wild. But yeah, it was the start of the pandemic and there was just like so much going on. There was a lot of unknowns, right? Like we didn't know if we were supposed to wear masks. We didn't have PPE. I was pregnant. I was trying to navigate that. And so I think that just kind of put on to the stress of the experience and made me realize like maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And I kind of like jolted out of that world because of the pandemic, because once my baby arrived, I didn't have childcare options. So naturally I was like, okay, I'm going to stay home with my kid. I'm going to raise her for some time until things kind of like regroup within the world. And and then I took some time to really just do some thinking, started to talk to people who were in the pharmaceutical industry to try to better understand like what options there are for clinicians and for nurses. And I got a little bit of information, but still to this day, I feel like there's just so much that's not talked about. And so, yeah, I luckily landed a role as a senior clinical science liaison at a really small biotech startup that was based in San Francisco, and really just was very lucky to be part of that organization and was there for about 2 years. Yeah, the difference between the clinical world and the corporate world, like it was definitely a learning curve. I remember like my first day, I was like, what is all this lingo that people are using? Like the corporate culture is so different, right? So it was definitely a culture shock.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what those differences were, right? Because we learned the lingo and the jargon of being a nurse. And we're like,
Yeah.
okay, we know, when somebody's like Q shift vitals, we know all these things, right? That if somebody was like, wait, Q shift, what are you talking about? Like, you have to do that in a different way in the corporate space.
Yeah.
So what were those hurdles that you had to kind of overcome from the clinical NP to now working in that biotech space?
Yeah. So I'll just back up and say that I was working from home. So even though my company was headquartered in San Francisco, I was able to work remotely in New Jersey. And so that made the first piece of things that I had to get used to, like being in my own. I had to create an office within my like tiny little house. And
Yeah.
like, like I feel like even having a desk set up, like as nurses, we're not used to having an office in our home because we go and we do our work and then we come home and
Yes.
it's completely disconnected. So that was very different. Meeting culture is very different too, like being at a desk from 9 to 5 and just being on meetings all day long, I think has a different kind of work. Like you're not walking around or running around the hospital or the clinic. Like you're just kind of like sitting and going from meeting to meeting. So it's a little bit different and takes a lot of energy out of you, especially if you're introverted like me, because you're constantly like on the phone, on call, talking to people all day long. So yeah, I think that was like a little bit of a struggle for me. And then the corporate language just comes with time. Like even to this day, I'll hear somebody say something and I'm like, what does that really mean? Like, I don't know if you've heard of terms like boil the ocean or, move the needle or like all these different things that people say in corporate America that are just like so bizarre.
Yeah. And then how does it feel not caring for patients, right? So whenever you're in this field, when we chose nursing, and I know that all of us have kind of this moment where we realized we wanted to care for people, there was something about that connection to the patient that was really special. Just like you said, like I loved those patients. And so now when you're behind this veil of, corporate America and you're kind of separated, how is that separation from the patient? How did that feel in your everyday clinical life? Or I guess corporate
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I definitely miss those patients. Like pediatric oncology just still feels very near and dear to my heart. Like those patients, those families that I really got to know, I really, really loved that. So I think that is hard, like not being able to talk to patients directly. I also think that being part of like a biotech or a pharma company, especially these startups that are really like innovating on new technologies, is so exciting because you can kind of take a step back and like look 10 years ahead and see the impact in your brain of like what this technology can do for patients and how it could really change the clinical landscape. And I think that is kind of what I've held on to is like these innovative sort of things and like this is what we need, right? In medicine, like there's a lot of what we do in medicine that is so behind the times. And so we need people that can bring this clinical expertise and have experience with patients to have a voice at these companies and really be able to talk on, okay, this is going to work for patients, or yes, this is going to work for physicians and NPs, or like, no, you guys are so out of touch, like let's regroup. So I think that there's just so much value to NPs being in those roles and why I'm doing what I'm doing and wanting to like push people to apply for these jobs because we just bring such a different level of skill and expertise to those roles.
That is so cool. So what kind of is your day-to-day typical? I mean, I heard you say 9 to 5 at a desk. It's a different vibe. We're not getting up. We're not driving into work. We're working remotely. Kind of what does your day-to-day look like in your current role? And again, just maybe describe what it is that you're doing specifically right now. Obviously, I know that you left that biotech job and you started something else and you're working kind of on the more donor clinical research side, clinical research specialist. You're in a different domain. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing and then what it looks like for you to do that job right now.
Yeah, so currently I'm working for the NNDP, which is we're a global nonprofit leader in cell therapy. So essentially people know us. We rebranded from Be the Max. So we were, if you remember from like college campuses, we would go and swab patients. And so we host this like really large national donor registry and help to facilitate stem cell transplants for patients. And so I joined this company about like 7-ish months ago, I think it's been. And I'm an access partnership consultant, which I just have to know before I joined corporate America and people would tell me what they do. Like, I was like, you're a consultant for who? Like, you're a what? Like, all these terms are just like, oh,
what does this mean? I'm an accent.
yeah. It's just so funny because like now, like when I introduce myself, I'm like, I'm an access partnership consultant. And still like, it's like, what does that mean? Not like, it's not straightforward. And we can get into this too, but this is the difficulty of like trying to find a job is like not knowing what to even search for because there's like a million titles. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. Okay. So I'm an access partnership consultant. And basically what I do in my role is there are all these patients out there that have really complex non-medical barriers to care, right? They can't get to transplant because they have financial barriers. They have logistical caregiver barriers. Like there's just so much that these patients face. It's just inequity, right? Like these patients don't have the same access to care as others. And so what can we do to help bridge that gap for patients? And so my role essentially is to build these partnerships with hemoncs in practice and help them to help their patients through our free resources within NMDP. So we have free HLA typing, which is essentially just like a buccal swab and is an essential role because that service essentially helps to run early donor searches for patients and helps to overcome some of those logistical barriers. So it's really like me getting into the clinics and starting to talk to these hemoncs and have them understand one, the importance of HLA typing their patients early on, because they're the ones seeing their patients at diagnosis. And once they get to the transplant center, some time has passed. And so then they're losing all of that great time
Yeah.
that
That
they
somebody could have
have.
meshed with them. Yeah.
If somebody could have, swabbed them and started that process really early. And we
Yeah.
provide that free of cost for these community practices that don't have typing in place. And so it's a really great service. So really it's me getting out there, like getting the word out there that there's these services. We have, a patient support center that helps to connect with patients that can help them with these non-medical barriers. So it's really like me educating on what the company's free resources are and also providing that clinical input of like, hey, like this is the advances we've made in transplant medicine over the past decade. Like we are transplanting older patients now. The eligibility criteria has changed. We have medications to manage GVHD, which is versus host disease post-transplant. Like there's all these great things that I can help to educate on both for hemoncs and then also like fellows in training. So yeah, my role is kind of mixed, but part of what I do is there's like a 20 to 40% travel requirement. So although I am 9 to 5 at my desk, I do also have to travel to these, hemoncs to build these partnerships. And so I would say my typical day really just depends on kind of what's going on. Like I could have a day that's fully at home or I can have a day that's like fully travel.
Yeah.
So I would say when I'm home though, like the 9 to 5 is basically, as I mentioned before, back to back meetings all day long. And it's to help, push that work forward. So it's internal meetings with my team and then cross-functionally with other departments to make sure that we're talking about the work that we're doing and the projects that we're trying to push forward. And then sometimes I'll have external meetings as well with these physicians to check in and nurture those relationships and really try to help those patients.
Yeah. My goodness. Okay. So what I'm kind of hearing is you worked as the liaison for the company, the match bone marrow company, and you help get word out about what the services are. You have a in-depth knowledge of the process from diagnosis to needing a bone marrow transplant and how that whole process works. And then you work to kind of get your company into the spaces where the doctors can bridge the gaps for patients as they see them. Is that kind of like a synopsis, a very basic
Yeah,
synopsis?
I want a very long-winded answer, but yes,
Yes, yeah. So like
well.
you work as a liaison on behalf of the company. And because of your skills as a nurse practitioner, and particularly in pediatric oncology, you understand the process. And so you're able to kind of translate from the companies to the doctors about how your product can help patients quicker, sooner, bridging those gaps, getting the patients in touch with the resources that they need, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and so one of the things as you were talking that kept coming up in my mind, and as I was listening to you talk, I was thinking, well, how does she have the skills? How did she obtain the skills to go from direct patient care to now working as a liaison on behalf of this company? Like, what were the skills that you needed to kind of bridge those worlds? Or did you just cultivate them? Like, I had them before, or no, I took the job and I figured it out as I went, like I'm building the plane as it flew.
Gosh, I think as MPs, we really underestimate our skills. Like a lot of what we do in the clinic is like is a lot of this work, right? Like we talk to physicians, we collaborate between different teams, we talk to patients, we understand the patient experience because we are their advocates. Like there's so much of what we do that's already transferable. And I think what's changing is that these companies are now realizing like, hey, like, okay, doctors, of course, yes, they are essential to these companies, but like nurse practitioners in the same way that we've penetrated the primary care markets and all of that, like, so we can actually really help in biotech and pharma, right? Because we just have all of that great expertise and you don't necessarily need a physician behind these types of roles. You do need them in some spaces like a thought leadership and things like that. But this before, like MPs are actually really, really great. So I love that people are realizing that now that like these skills that we are so good at already exist. And really, it's really not like changing your skill set. It's just using it in a different application.
That's such a great answer. And that was what I was hoping you were going to say is that there was really nothing I needed to do because I've already
Yeah.
had these skills from being a nurse, from being a nurse practitioner, and they
Yeah.
translate so perfectly into other fields. I love that you're encouraging more nurse practitioners to consider this, especially with the burnout rate, sometimes kind of like what you said too, like I'm at a different season of my life. I don't want to spend every day out of the house. Like you could
Yes.
be more present mom. Like you can be a more present mom when you're working in these kind of spaces. And yes, there's some days you have to go out, but it's not every day. Like you could
No.
still be in a season of presence with your family and be there and also have a very rewarding career. Like I just think it's really neat that you're shining light on an area that it's like, this is a total option. Like, and you have the skills
Yeah.
already. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go take a test. You don't have to go pass a board. Like you are already ready. You just got to find it. So what advice would you give to a nurse practitioner that's like, okay, so I'm kind of interested in this. How do I find it? Like, where do I go? What are those key words that I need to be typing into Indeed to find these things? Or
Yeah.
NP hire. So right.
Yes. Yeah, I think exactly as you said, like the first step is figuring out what role you like because there's so much that you can do within these organizations. And so what I do on my social media pages, like on my TikTok mostly is where I'm present,
Yeah.
and shed light on these roles because I think like that is where you get lost. That's where I got lost when I was trying to figure out like what do I search? Like what are these titles? Like what, how do I even start? And so I tried to like bucket them to the best of my abilities between like roles for nurse practitioners, roles for nurses, and anything that's applicable for an NP pretty much is the same for a PA.
Yeah.
You kind of just do NP like they do in other spaces. So that's nice too for PAs to have that access.
Hey, I hate to interrupt a good conversation, but I have to tell you about the newest sponsor for the Success NP podcast. Now, do you ever feel like you can't get ahead on charting? Imagine a world where you did not have to think about writing notes again. I want to introduce to you Freed. It is an AI medical scribe built to free clinicians everywhere. It listens, transcribes, and writes instant clinical notes for you in your style. It learns how you like to write notes and it does it for you. Free can be used across all specialties and in office as well as virtual visits and works in multiple languages. I use it in my current practice and it is an absolute game changer. I've gotten other NPs to use it as well and they echo the love for Freed AI. Freed AI is HIPAA compliant and only takes seconds to learn. Over 15,000 clinicians, including doctors, nurse practitioners, therapists, they use it to save up to 2 hours every day to free themselves from documentation. I wouldn't be on here just giving rave reviews if I hadn't tried it myself. It works so well. Start your free trial today. No credit card needed at freed.ai. Use code SuccessNP50 to get 50 off your first month when you subscribe. Attention, all nurse practitioners and NP students. Are you tired of feeling the disconnect between clinical rotations and didactic teaching? Say hello to Success NP's clinical booklet guides.
As NPs ourselves, we know how valuable it is to have a resource that helps bridge the gap between clinical and class. So we created the digital resource to do just that. Our clinical booklets cover 5 major NP tracks: psych, adult, peds, family, and women's health. Success NPs wants to create tools and provide support NPs need to thrive in their careers.
So why wait? Check out our Success NP Etsy shop, linked in the show notes, for our digital guides and other digital clinical resources. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
But I would start there, like going to see like what those roles are. And then I forget where you said the platform you were encouraging people to use it, but LinkedIn or whatever it is, like you can just start
searching. Yeah.
And then you can start reading through those job descriptions and understanding what these companies are looking for and find your niche, like find what you are actually looking for. There's clinical research side of things and R&D, and then there's like the sales and commercial side of things. So really find like what your thing is and what's going to bring you happiness, and then set your job alerts. Like start getting email updates when, these companies are coming out with these jobs, because as soon as they put them out, you should be applying. You want to be an early applicant because that shows that you're really committed to that role in that company.
Yeah. So every job comes with challenges, period. I don't care what job you're doing. Like motherhood, the most rewarding job, a lot of challenges, right? Like every job we do is tough. So what are some of the challenges in this space that maybe you didn't know or you found as you've been in it that you're like, this is hard. You can overcome it, but it's hard?
Yeah. So I would say two things. One of it is that it kind of carries over from the clinical world. I have struggled with this as an NP of like being in this space of like a mid-level provider. It can be really challenging because you don't have the expertise of a physician and you don't have the training of a physician, but you are, you have this like advanced degree that kind of puts you in a different space than a registered nurse. And so I've always felt like that hierarchy continues kind of anywhere you go and can be really challenging. And it's okay. I think it's just like, as a nurse practitioner, I remember when I was in NP school, my NP professor, like, this stuck with me forever. She was like, you should know that for the rest of your career, you will be fighting. Like, you will be fighting to prove your knowledge. You will be fighting to have people respect you. And I think that goes into every career. Like, as I talk to some physician, even in the biotech space, like there is that respect of like, okay, yes, like you have this clinical expertise and bone marrow transplant or whatever it is. But then there's also those physicians that are not going to respect you in that same way. So I think that continues to carry over. I don't think that changes.
Interesting.
But that's a completely different problem.
No, that's good. Thank you for sharing light on that. I can see that.
And then the other piece of it is just with these biotech companies, especially like the smaller startups, I think going into it, realizing that you don't have the same job security that you would in the hospital setting. And so what I did to protect myself, because obviously like I'm a mom and, we have a mortgage and there's just all these life things, right? So I've kept my license up to date. I pay for it. I renew it. I make sure I have DMEs and stuff so that I can renew it, because that job will always be there. Like I can always go back to clinic. I could always pick up shifts. Like I want to make sure that I have that security. Luckily, I haven't had any issues with that. Like my company, the biotech one that I was part of, went through a couple different reductions in force and layoffs. And I was lucky to be a survivor, but also understand that that could be a risk for some people that is uncomfortable. But I think as long as you're smart about it and you are, being backup plans for yourself, it is a good space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the hospital kind of lulls you to sleep in that sense. You kind of think you're super safe. And that I've been laid off from a hospital job. I mean, it is not, you're not safe anywhere. And so I think that recognition that there is no job that you're 100% not going to get fired from. I mean, working, you see all the things that are happening with just a change in president, right? You change your president, now everything's different. Like things change, right? And so you need to be diversified. Your income streams as a nurse practitioner need to be diversified. You need to be prepared for if, then this, and one of the great things about our degree and the things that I always harp on, which is why when people come to me, they're like, PA or NP? And I'm like, well, how old are you? Let's look at the story. Like I kind of work through some of the details, because sometimes I'll be honest with you, like I think nurse is better. And I think nurse practitioner is better because of that option of just being like, I can go be a nurse tomorrow and I can get a job and start working. I get a $30,000 sign-on bonus just from taking the job. Like It would probably be a terrible job because that's a red flag, but it doesn't matter. Like I could go get money if we're not going to be on the street, And so
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where it's like when you're a PA, like that's it. You can only be a PA. But as a nurse practitioner, I can go be a nurse practitioner. I can go be a nurse. I can not need credentials. I can just go get to work. Like it's
Yeah.
so much flexibility, and that's in anything. And so I love that you brought that up. And so the future of farm, biotech, corporate nurse practitioners, like, what is your vision? If you could take a crystal ball and say, this is what I see, what would you say that you kind of
Yeah.
predict in the future being in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I think that companies are definitely, like, as I mentioned before, realizing the value of an NP. And so I'm seeing that, like, those roles, for example, medical science liaison, that typically you would, historically, I've seen like MDs, PharmDs, PhDs. A lot more NPs are able to penetrate that market now because they're seeing the value that we can bring. So if I had a crystal ball and if I threw in a little bit of what I wanted to happen, I would say that, it would be really nice if these companies would continue on that of like understanding that we really do bring a little value and air us into these roles. There's just like there's a lack of clinical expertise in a lot of these companies. And I think it's just nurses just bring so much value. And I think that people are realizing that.
Yeah. I think sometimes too, and, not to pit us against doctors, but I mean, it's facts. I feel like doctors serve a very like specific science clinical role. And then nurse practitioners, we understand, again, like you said, not to the depth of the clinical science per se, or even the clinical research process as much, because a lot of them are very much into research, which I think is something that should be open up to more of us to understand because I have a lot of interest in it just naturally. But there's also the other element where I feel like we see the patients. And so we have
Yeah.
more of a connection to the people and we kind of see the whole person more so where doctors really get, I think, what is the word, myopic, where they just focus in on like clinical outcomes, put them on the med and did it work, or I cut it out and is it gone? They get a little bit of that focus. And then we're just like, yeah, I know, but does the patient have issues with finance? Does it, like we look at the whole person. And so I really think that's the holistic approach that really is needed to these collaborative teams. It's like, so what if it's like effective? Like, what if people can't afford it? What if people can't get there to get the
Absolutely.
treatment? Like, those are the things that I feel like the nurse has a real, like, has a pulse on more so than what doctors are really worried about at times. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think like too, alongside those like barriers that patients face is like the logistics and the workflow. Like I feel like NPs and nurses really understand, like, okay, you have a patient that comes in, this is, the checklist of things that are happening. And then there's like another set. Like, I feel like not that physicians don't, but I think we have a better grasp on it because that's like what we are immersed in and day out. And so when you think about like these biotech and pharma companies that are creating these products for their customers, patients, and providers, like we have that knowledge of like how this is going to work in their workflow and like how we can make this successful. So yeah, I totally agree. I think we bring a different lens.
Yeah, I love that.
I think like for people that are wanting to learn more, I think I just want to encourage people to like just do their research and really start committing themselves to it. It can be a long process, the application process, and it can be sometimes discouraging because it's competitive, right? Like there's a lot of people that are trying to get into this market.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. I think just like believe in yourself and push through and really hone in on the skills that you do have and those as you're applying because it really does go a long way. And then the last thing
No, but please
into is like, networking, do your best to continue to talk to people, message me, like add me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to, to keep the conversation going, but really try to keep that network going because you never know who's going to be part of a company or hiring or, whatever that is. And that really does open the door to opportunities. And once you get in, once you have that first role, like everything changes for
Opens
you.
up.
And so, yeah, I just would encourage you to keep on going if it's something you're really passionate about.
Yeah. So when you were talking, it made me think like, what are those key metrics on your resume that make a difference in these jobs? Because if I send over my clinical reference, right, but it shows, now I think I saw one of your TikToks that you were like, if you have oncology experience as a nurse, like it doesn't matter if you've not been like a nurse practitioner in oncology, like you have experience in oncology as an RN, like that will translate through. What are some things that you notice like are key metrics or key, takeaways to put on your resume if you are a nurse practitioner that's interested in getting into this like field?
Yeah. So I would say the two things, and I think this is probably what you were referring to with that TikTok, is one is specialty experience. Like if you have that, that is going to be like, that is so,
Gold.
so important. People love that. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you have disease state experience. Like it could be in anything. It doesn't, obviously, oncology is one we talk about a lot because it's a huge part of the market. But
Yeah.
there's others like diabetes. If you've been a diabetes educator, like really hone in on that, right? Like if you're in a primary care clinic that sees like all these diabetics and really manages them, like try to like brand yourself as an expert in that because that will go a long way for these companies that are in that space. So specialty experience is one. And then research experience, I would say, is another. I think those are the two things that really helped me. As an oncology nurse practitioner, I naturally I was in pediatrics. So I was naturally like a sub-I for a lot of these clinical research studies. And I made sure to like really talk about that and like my experiences with it and how I understood how to read a research protocol. And I understood like, eligibility criteria and like whatever you can really like nitpick on your experience, like try to bring that into an application because that goes along. Like there's a lot of space for nurses in research. And so if you do have any kind of research experience, like I would try to cover it.
And then the networking part, right? Because like it's great when you apply and you send your resume out into these open like black holes and then you never hear back and you're like, I don't know why I didn't get it. Like what wasn't, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it really matters who you know. I mean, that really is like, it's everything, right? Like getting to have conversations with people and just realizing like, no, this is a solid person. They're my buddy, pushing the resume. I know you guys are looking for somebody. Here's my friend, like,
yes.
These are critical things, right? You need that. And so where can you be, you brought it up earlier, but where can you be finding these networks of nurse? If we're all underground, how do we know where the underground party is? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you know?
Yeah. I think that I talk about networking as one, just like almost kind of like a cold message on LinkedIn, where if you've applied for a job, trying to find who that recruiter is. And one of the things that drives me nuts and a lot of people tend to do, which is just like, oh, this is working against you. Do not put like, I'm interested under a job posting. Like that is not going to help your case. If you're truly interested in a job, send the person a message and X, Y, and Z on why you're qualified and why you think you would be a good candidate and how you would bring value to that role, right? Because if you're just like commenting on people's posts, like, I'm interested, like, that's not going to do anything, right? It's showing that you're almost taking a back seat and expecting somebody to reach out to you because you're interested. It's not about you being interested. It's about them being interested in you ultimately, right? Yeah. So you need to be able to bring that to the table. So please stop doing that if you are doing that. And make sure that you're reaching out to people and, showing the value that you can bring to them. The second place, I love to just get in front of people because it just builds a different kind of connection. So if you're able to attend conferences through your company, like if there's like, let's say you're in pediatrics and there's like a big pediatric conference, like try to attend those and start talking to some of the vendors there. Like they have usually like biotech and pharma people there. Yeah. And then you could go in with interest as like a clinician, but then you could potentially build connections there. And so I would try to do that as much as possible. I think when I was an NP in the clinical world, like I didn't go to any conferences and I feel like that would have helped a lot. Like there's so many pharma folks at these conferences. So I think that helps.
Yeah, that's so good. Great advice, guys. That's how you get involved. That's how you network in this space if you're interested. And then also reach out to, Ms. Shah, reach out to her, let her know, like, I'm interested in this. I want to hear more about it. Like, who do I, and again, if you're just clicking like, I'm interested, check link in bio. You need to show what value you bring to their company, right? And that's the shift. It's so easy in the hospital because they get how we're valuable. Like it's very easy to show that because it directly affects patient care. We are involved in the patient care process. So that's an easier, buy-in. They already get it. But in the biotech space, in the pharmaceutical space, we're trying to penetrate, as you're saying, we're trying to infiltrate these areas and show our value. So you've really got to kind of prove yourself. And it's a different way of marketing yourself as as a provider, because that's what we're all essentially doing every day when we go to work, every day when we send our resume, every day when we message about something we're interested in, we're showing how we market ourselves. And so she's like, yeah, just market yourself well, because just even that extra step shows people where your mind is, shows people your initiative and kind of how you are. Yeah. How you're just ready for that next opportunity. And again, these are new spaces that we are cracking into, which is going to require a different approach. So don't just cold call resume. Like now, like you've got to do a little bit of extra work. I think that's really good. Well, thank you for all those gems that you shared. Your story is incredible. I'm just so inspired by people that go where no one has gone before. Like, I like that. It's such a Star Trek, Enterprise, like going where no one has gone before type thing. And I love it because we need more nurse practitioners going into these spaces, but then also echoing back like, hey, I'm here. You're not alone. And come check out what we're doing because this is incredible. This is, this can help you take a break from burnout. This can give you a different opportunities. Like, I just am so excited to see what you're going to do with this because you could get involved in a biotech startup. You could be the head of a board. Like, you just have all of these options now that as a little nurse working in clinic that just thinks this is the grind, there's no other option. It's like, no, girl or boy, wake up.
Yeah.
Like, there's more, and I just love this field. I love nursing so much because it always surprises me. It shouldn't surprise me anymore, but it's just incredible. Like, we have so many options. So it really is endless. So you ready for rapid fire?
Oh gosh. Yes.
So what are you most grateful for in the whole world?
My children.
Your children. I thought we were coming up. Okay, I set that one up. If you had to pick a character to play you on TV, who would it be?
Oh my God. I'm so bad at pop culture. Like, I don't know any names of any people. Skip.
I feel like I want to guess, but I don't know any super good Indian actresses. I don't know any
I know.
Oh, I was like, I know Aishwarya Rai. I know she's super. Oh, what's her name? She's married to the Jonas Brothers.
Bianca Chopra.
She's beautiful. She's like, I'm not thinker.
Hey, she's not an actress, but Amal Clooney. I love her. She's not an actress, but I feel like I just want to be here in my life.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, that is the best answer to that question. See, and now you're giving me the best answer to that. She's so classy. Like, I don't know what it is. No. Something about her. It's like her vibration is higher. Like, I don't know what vibration you're on, but it's up there. I can feel it.
She's not good person. I'm like, oh, I just want to be her.
She's class. No. You can just tell. Like, she doesn't need money. She's just classy on her own. It's just the way she is. Yeah. Well, good pick. If you had to give someone a book, what would it be? If you had to give someone this is the book, read this one, game changer, life changer, whatever it is, which book would it be?
I'm really into the Mel Robbins let them theory. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's
oh wait, she has a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's she wears glasses, big red glasses.
Yeah, and I don't think it's anything new that she's putting out there, but I just love how she talks about it. It's basically taking the control off of other people in your life and really just focusing on yourself. If there's somebody if there's a company that's not hiring, let them, right? A new opportunity will come up. If your current workplace is not prioritizing you in the same way that you would want to be prioritized or, promoted, let them. You'll be leaving. I mean, yes. There's just so much of that I really love. I think it just takes the pressure off of the control that you don't have over other people and just focus and drive back on you.
Yeah, no, that's a word for today. That is a whole episode because it truly is the case. And that's another reason why I started this podcast is because it's I don't want nurses to just be I'm so burned out. There's just mantra of just we're burned out, set us free. And it's set yourself free. Come on, we've got too many options. You've got so many things. If you don't enjoy this, go do something else. I can't with that. And again, I know it's grinding work. I know that all of it is tough, and that's just life, right? Like there's a part of this that is just going to be hard because it's just the world that we live in. But there's also that reframing your mindset of like, I'm not a victim here. Like I can choose,
Yeah.
I just think that's really good. All right. So that's it for rapid fire. The success NP quote of the day is success is getting what you want. Happiness is getting what you get, by W.P. Kinsella. So we like success here because we talk about success. The reason why the podcast is named Success NP is because of the fact that success is not an end goal. It's you get as you go through the journey. And it's just, like I want every nurse practitioner to be successful in their own right. You are not a victim. You have endless options. And whatever that success looks like for you, the nurse degree will probably get you there if you continue searching for what it is that you want, because it's out there.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I love that. Yeah. You just have to pivot to find it. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's so good. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Where can people find you? On LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. I've stalked you. Your stuff's super cute. I love your hair. I don't know how all the Indian girls have the most amazing hair, but you guys all do. So tell me where they can find you.
Yeah. So on social media, I'm at NPT. So it's NPTEEKS. And then, LinkedIn, I'm just my full name, Ankita Shah. Definitely feel free to add me, message me. I try to get back to as many people as I can. But I'm here to help. I just want to be a resource for people that are looking to find their happiness in nursing again.
All right. That's another big part of success is like leaving breadcrumbs for others so that they can see how you created your successful career, right? It's so not just about getting to that spot for yourself. Success is so multifaceted. It's also that time where you get to that spot and then you look back and you go, how do I help others?
Yeah, I think that,
Yeah, I love that. I love
that's exactly where I feel like I am. I feel like I didn't have those resources when I was looking, and so I'm like, I wish somebody would just like talk about it.
Yes. Yeah. No, 100%. Love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you for your time, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Success NP. We hope today's discussion has shed some light on the diverse career options or taught you how to improve your clinical practice as a nurse practitioner.
Remember, whether you're considering a specialization, pursuing advanced certifications, or exploring non-traditional roles, there's a wealth of opportunities out there waiting for you. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. The Success NP's podcast is on the World Wide Web, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X. So subscribe to our newsletter for updates on new podcast episodes and other information to help you on your own NP journey. You can always message us at successnpspodcast@gmail.com with any NP podcast episodes or topics you'd like us to discuss.
Until next time, take care. Stay curious and keep advancing your careers as a nurse practitioner. And just a friendly reminder, the information on this podcast is for educational purposes only. The information should not be used in substitute for professional care by a medical provider. The information on this podcast does not represent medical or professional advice or services.
Bye for now.